Hey everybody, Scott Chanel here. This is my cost of operation summary for Aviation 360. Just to prepare you, it's a little bit dull, lots of graphs, numbers and all that fun stuff. So just prepare yourselves for that. In my presentation, we're going to be comparing and continuing to compare the TBM 930, PC12, the CJ3 Plus, and the PC24. So what I wanted to do was compare two turboprops and two business jets together and see what would fit the need best. So a little background. The company that I'm selecting an aircraft for has told me that they have a $3 million down payment to give. They are pretty set on only financing for 10 years, no longer. They want to be, they don't really want to have the debt looming for more than 10 years. So that's kind of what I thought would be, somewhat realistic, is a larger down payment with a shorter payment cycle amount of time. So let's dive in. We're going to first compare the fixed cost. As we can kind of basically understand already, is the turboprops are going to be pretty similar and then much smaller than the jet. So the two jets, the PC24 is a little bit larger than the CJ3. Now we're going to move over to the variable cost. And similar, the PC12 is a little bit higher than the TBM 930, and the CJ3 and the PC24 are about the same. Now we're going to look at the hours of utilization. So this really goes into the block speed for the 300 nautical mile trip that we discussed earlier. Like, obviously the PC12 is going to take longer to fly the same trip than the CJ3 or the PC24. So it's cheaper to operate per hour, but it's going to take us longer, and we'll have to operate it for a longer amount of time. And we're going to look at the estimated annual costs. So obviously the turboprops don't cost as much as the business jets do, but it just kind of, we're looking here to see how the needs can be met by each of these aircraft. So there's a pretty sizable gap between the TBM 930 and the PC24, and that's something to be noted. Estimated cost per hour, kind of like what we were just talking about. The cost per hour can't necessarily be a standalone figure. We need to look at it in unison with the block speed. So sure, we may be paying more per hour, but we're not flying as long for the same amount of time, or for the same trip. So something to compare and contrast here. So hopefully these graphs can help us a little bit. Now, we also can't take charter off the table completely, but what we really need to do is compare the cost per hour for the annual hours of utilization and compare them to the charter options. So I kind of did that on my own. The PC24 was the most expensive annual cost per hour at just under $5,000 per hour, and the estimated hours of utilization was 327, and that pretty much tracked right along with a 300-hour, about 327 hours of charter. So it would be about the same price to charter. Now the other option, and the other thing to think about is, hey, you have a lot more freedom and say, and sure, more responsibility, but it's your aircraft and you get to make the rules. for your aircraft. And that is no small item. Alright, well guys, thanks for sticking with me if you've hung around this long. Looking forward to seeing y'all's presentation. See ya.